Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today is a sit-down video. I'm actually going to be covering the books I read in 2024. I did do a video like this, I want to say in like 2023, and a lot of people liked it. It was like books I've read so far, but I never picked it back up. And now that I'm starting book reviews again and reading more, I wanted to kind of throw this in there too. So since it's February, I wanted to do just like books I've read in 2024 to kind of recap last year and then hopefully continue this trend next year. So this is just going to be all the books that I managed to read in 2024, and I hope you enjoy this video, and let's get started. Okay, so 2024 was a year where I did not read that much, so it's not going to be a big list at all. I think 2023 was a big list for me, but this is not going to be a big list just because 2024 was a very pivotal year for me. Obviously, it was the year that I bought my house, and I was working 2 jobs, so I really didn't have time to read for the first half of the year. So I think I started reading again in like June of last year, so it's going to be a shorter video probably, but I just want to go through and just do like a brief like synopsis of them, and then if I would read again or if I wouldn't read again. Just something super simple without any spoilers. Hopefully I'll try to keep them to a minimum, but I will warn you if there are spoilers ahead. The first book I read is So Not Meant to Be by Megan Quinn. So she is a adult romance author. So I just started getting into romance probably at the end of 2023. I started like reading it, and by 2024, like these books, they're full on pretty much romance you'll see, or fantasy. So that's pretty much all exclusively that I read now. But this, I think Megan Quinn's a good author. I know there's people that don't like her. I think my friend tried to read this book and she hated it, but I like Megan Quinn. She writes very realistic scenarios, more like, not realistic, but like everyday scenarios. So Not Meant to Be is actually, I think, a trilogy, but you don't actually need to read them in order. This is the second one, and I did not read the first or the third. This book is a romance between coworkers. So he is kind of the boss, CEO kind of guy of the company, and she's just like, she's got an important position, but she's not CEO or, of that standard. So they have to go to San Francisco together for a project and live in the same loft and just share time together that they try to avoid mostly. So usually they avoid each other at all costs. She hates him, he likes her, but she's always hated him. So this book kind of dives into their relationship and what it's like living together in San Francisco for the time period that they're there for work. And would I read it again? Yes, I would. And I've been looking to maybe read more Megan Quinn this summer. I've read another book, I think it was Vacation Wars, I want to say was the book title, but I read that in 2023 and I liked that as well. So if I can find another Megan Quinn book, I'm all for it. My dog unplugged my ring light, sorry, so it just got randomly dark in the middle of that. But that is the first book that I read for 2024. I did rate it 4 stars, so I'm looking at my Goodreads right now, I'm cheating, so. The second book I read was Drunk on Love by Jasmine Gilroy. I might be butchering that, but it is almost like a CEO owner of a winery in the Napa Valley, and she does this like one night stand with some guy, she thinks. And then it turns out that's actually her new employee. So and that's not spoiling anything. That's literally like, I think on the back cover. So you find that in the first chapter. So yeah, it's interesting. So it's similar like workplace romance, but she didn't know that was her employee at the time. So it just becomes all sorts of awkward throughout the book. So, and she's older too. So she's supposed to be like, I think 40s, and I think he's like 20s. So it's supposed kind of like a little age gap there. I've never read Jasmine Gilroy before, and like I said, I'm probably butchering the name. It's probably Gilroy, I don't know, but I've never read her before, and I thought it was really good. It was a light read. It wasn't something that was heavy at all by any means. Some of the books that I've read are very heavy, but you know, I just like to read those romance books like that because it's just fun. And there's conflict in there, but it's not like all I think about. I did rate that one 4 stars as well. And then the next book I read was Summer Reading, and that is by Jen McKinley. So I guess, actually looking at the Goodreads right now, it's a series. Oh, it's a different person. Okay. Sometimes romance authors do series, similar to how I was talking about with this Megan Quinn book, where you don't have to necessarily read them in order. They're different characters, but the same world. So I guess she did a second one like that. I honestly didn't really care for this book too much. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, but I think I should have really gave it 3 because it was a cute read because he was a librarian and she was dyslexic, and like that, she made that her whole thing, but she was a chef, and like they ended up working on a project together. Like he was helping her with chef stuff and she was helping him with librarian stuff, I guess. So it's kind of, yeah, it's a summer romance, obviously, from the title, but I didn't really like it too much. I didn't think, how do I say this? Some of the characters I've read in other books are better. So I will just leave it at that. I think I'll change my rating to 3 stars, but would I read it again? No, probably not. And I probably would not try the author again. She did not have, it was not spicy, if you're wondering. This book, Megan Quinn, and the Jasmine book, Drunk on Love, were spicy. This book is not. This one is just plain romance, and I think this book was missing for me. Okay, and the next book I read is a fantasy, and it was called Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This was the stupidest book I've ever read. Probably not the stupidest, but I read it for book club, so some of these aren't my choice. I've just read them for book club. And basically, I'm trying to think it's like a fairy tale, but like a twisted fairy tale. Like it's not, like she's got like a bone dog. I don't really know how to describe it, honestly. It was I think it was like 250 pages or something, and it took me an entire month to get through because it was just not good. Because I just did not have motivation to pick up and read it, and that's the truth. So I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. I should probably drop it down to 1. That was probably being nice. I think that author is not something that not an author I would reread. I would never reread this book. I mean, I don't know. I know there were people in the book club that liked it, so maybe it's just me, but I just didn't care for it. I'll read a little bit of the synopsis for you. So it says, on her quest, Mara is joined by the Grave Witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. Together, the 5 of them intend to be the hand that closes around the throat of the prince and frees Mara's family and their kingdom from its tyrannous leader at last. And that sounds really interesting, right? So you think, okay, this book is really great. No, I didn't. I'm telling you, it took me like a month to read it because it was not good. I almost didn't finish it in time for book club, and it was like 250 pages. Okay, moving on. I don't think these are in order anymore because I was updating them. So I do know next I read Heartless Hunter by Kristen Cicerelli, probably how you say her last name. This was another book club book, but it was a fantasy read, and it was really good. Like, I was surprised at how good it was. So let me read you the synopsis real quick. So it says, Rune spends her nights as the Crimson Moth, a witch vigilante to rescue her kind from being purged. When a rescue goes wrong, she decides to throw the witch hunters off her scent and gain the intel she desperately needs by courting the handsome Gideon Sharp, a notorious and unforgiving witch hunter loyal to the revolution, who she can't help but find herself falling for. So romance, but it's fantasy, so romantasy is what it's normally called. And it was really good. I think it's more on the YA side, so I wouldn't say it's spicy at all if anybody wants to try this book and they're not sure about spicy books. But Yeah, I would say I gave it 5 stars, and I would reread it again. She's actually writing a second book now, and I think it's coming out the end of February, and I'm actually going to buy that book and buy the first one because this one I actually rented from the library. So I'll buy both of them because I thought it was great, and it was great storytelling. I liked the writing in it. I liked the characters. I liked the story, and yeah, so 5 stars, and I would reread it. Okay, moving back over to romance. Just plain romance. I read Until Next Summer by Allie Brady, and that is a really cute, fun read for the summertime, and basically the two characters that it really focuses on were in camp together. They grew apart, and now one's a camp director and one's, I think, in like marketing or something, and the camp is closing. And so the camp director, the main character, decides to throw one last party, but it's an adult-only summer. So she invites this girl back who was her best friend at the time, and it just kind of like dives into their relationship, like, you know, reminiscing on old things. They're doing fun camp activities, but as adults, and, you know, they meet some guys, and, you know, it's a little romantic. It's not very spicy. I think there's maybe one scene in there, so I don't think it's a bad read if you're trying to stay away from that. And I really liked it. I like Allie Brady. She's actually there. It's actually two people, two best friends, and I've read, I think, 2 or 3 books by them, and I've enjoyed them both. The other one I've read is The Comeback Summer, which I actually own. And that is one I would reread again. I'm probably going to reread it this summer, actually. But Until Next Summer, I would say, falls behind that one. I still gave it 5 stars, and I would still reread it again. But The Comeback Summer was something that was better for me. But I read that in 2023. So if you want to learn about that, go watch that other vlog. Next, we get into more of the holiday books. So I did read Christmas at the Lake by Anita Hughes. I did a whole book review on that. So feel free to check that out. I will be linking it down below, but I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. I would not reread it. I did not like it. I thought the characters were very flat, and the storyline had potential. Like, it really did. And I said this in my book review too, but it had potential. But to be honest, like, I didn't like the characters. I think the characters kind of ruined it. Okay, so the synopsis real quick, I will say, on Christmas Eve, just hours before their wedding, Rebecca is left at the altar by Ben, her college sweetheart and co-founder of highly successful dating app Deal Breakers. He's fallen in love with the app's head of legal, and they are going to leave for 3 weeks. So she's left at the altar. She decides to go to her honeymoon, still single, now at the Christmas Cove Inn on the shores of Lake Tahoe. So it does have like the setting of Christmas and Christmas Village and all that, but like I said, you can watch my book review I did on that, but I didn't like it, and I wouldn't reread it, and I probably will stay away from that author from now on. I don't know if I really want to give her a second chance. I don't know if that sounds bad, but yeah, there's some people I'm willing to give second chances for, and I don't think Anita uses one. Okay, next I read A Home for the Holidays by Taylor Hahn. This was a book club read, so it's not one that I selected myself, but this one it deals with grief. Her mom dies, I think, in the first chapter or 2, and it says it on the back cover, so it's not a spoiler at all. But her mom dies around Christmas time, and it deals with addiction. She was a very bad alcoholic, and the main character spends a lot of time reflecting on that throughout the book, with the main character spending a lot of time on reflecting on her grief and addiction and how to cope. She meets her mom's old best friend, and she spends the Christmas with them and learns a little bit more about her mom along the way, and, you know, opening up to love as well. I enjoyed this book. I thought it was a different read for me. It's not something that I would normally pick up off the shelf, so that's why I wanted to do it for book club. I gave it, what did I give it? I gave it 4 stars. The ending was good. It tied everything up pretty nicely, but it still left you wondering like a couple things. But I almost like it if the ending leads to more questions, but not too many questions. I don't want to be sitting here like I would be looking for Alaska if we were to discuss looking for Alaska right now. I have racked my brain for many hours with that book, and there's really no answers. But this one, A Home for the Holidays, it does explain everything, but it still makes you think, okay, like what happens to her in this, and what happened in this situation? Like, it leads potential for a sequel, but I don't think that there will be one, nor do I think it needs one. I just like that there's a possibility for one, if that makes sense at all. Then I read A Jingle Bell Mingle, and that's by two authors, Julie Murphy and Sierra Simon. I actually have it right here. So this, I think I talked about in my one video with my bookshelf tour. This is the spiciest book I've ever read in my entire life. There is spice in pretty much every single chapter. So if you are not into that, do not read this book. But it was like, whoa, I'm on the train like, whoa, my God. Like, it looks innocent, but it's not. So I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was fun for Christmas. And what did I give it? I gave it 4 stars. I don't know why I didn't give it 5. I think there was something in there that I just didn't like, or maybe it was the ending. But basically, it is a part-time adult film actress and a former boy band heartthrob living in the same place in his mansion that he opens up to her. And they've already had a few one-night stands together, so it's just kind of like close proximity trope, I guess. But yeah, I thought it was a fine read. Would I reread it again? I probably would next Christmas. I'll probably forget about it by that time and then be like, oh, you know what? I can read this one. So the next book I read is The Fourth Wing. So you've probably seen this all over the internet, but this is one of the best fantasies I've ever read in my entire life. And I'm going to be doing a book review on it separately from this, so don't worry. This is a book I think everybody should read. Even if you're not into romance, even if you're not into fantasy, you should read this book, because this is what it's about right here. This has everything you want. This has dragons. This has, spice. This has, just everything. What else do you need? Dragons and spice. There's nothing else that you need. To give you a quick overview real quick, it is about Violet Sorrengail, and she goes to, I'm gonna butcher it, Basgiath War College, and she basically trains to be a rider, and a rider is someone that rides dragons. There's different quadrants and everything, but everyone in her family is a rider. She's very frail and fragile and has to wrap her knees constantly because her bones aren't quite right, but she tries to be a writer. So there is a lot of other things in this book as well. So it does come with a warning page. There's a lot of violence, a lot of death. I can read you the whole warning page, actually. The warning page says, Fourth Wing is a nonstop thrilling adventure fantasy set in the brutal and competitive world of a military college for dragon riders, which includes elements regarding war, battle, hand-to-hand combat, perilous situations, blood, intense violence, brutal injuries, death, poisoning, graphic language, and sexual activities that are shown on the page. Readers who are sensitive to these elements, please take note. So that is your warning. I still think you should read it. Honestly, I am obsessed with this book. Hands down, the best series I've ever read. I am on Onyx Storm right now. I did a little short showing me going to get that at midnight at Barnes & Noble. But yeah, this book, this is a must buy and a must read. And I will be doing a book review on it soon, so stay tuned for that. But honestly, there's a lot of hype online about it. I know there's a lot of hype on TikTok. I don't have a TikTok, so I don't see it, but I know there's a ton of hype for this book online, but it is with good reason, I promise. The last book that I read for 2024 was Dead of Night by Emily Goodwin, and that is a romantasy. There is a lot of spice in it, but it deals with a vampire and a witch, and they fall in love, and there's a whole series on them. I think there's 11 books. I've not read the second one yet, but I do plan to once I get through Onyx Storm and the next book club read. But I would reread that again. I thought it was fine. There was nothing really particularly wrong with the book. I put 3 stars on Goodreads for this book. I just thought it really reminded me of Supernatural, and it made me want to rewatch Supernatural. But 3, I give it 3 because it's fine, it's fair, but it's not the best book I've ever read. I mean, Fourth Wing, hello. But yeah, I would reread the rest of the I would reread it, and I would read the rest of the series. So I don't have any hate against it, but it's not my favorite. And I'm excited to see how the storyline progresses. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I appreciate you guys watching my videos and subscribing. If you haven't already, please do. It really helps a ton, as well as liking and commenting. So I really appreciate you all, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye!